Madison's police chief says he is relieved his sons didn't follow in his footsteps as criticism drives his officers out of the job.
And as the closing date for Lincoln Hills approaches, we're learning more about one of the proposed sites for a new youth prison.
This is News 3 This Morning.
Good morning and welcome to News 3 This Morning. It is Thursday, November 29th. I'm not going to break out into song like Josh usually does, but it's starting to look like the holiday season out there.
Yeah, it is.
She was close.
I got
we got her close.
And then we stopped. I know, did you hear the hesitation in my voice? Like, this is going to go badly. But it looks pretty out.
It's very pretty outside. If you're just waking up, we have a little bit of fresh snow on the ground here across southern Wisconsin. About an inch here in Madison. Looks like maybe Platteville, less than that. You can see some snow on the pavement, but really not even covering the grass. The parking lot looks wet. So here's a look at the radar map. The snow is moving out of the area pretty quickly. It's moving out of Marquette and Green Lake counties as well as Dodge County. So basically coming to an end for our viewing area early this morning. Be aware, though, that some of the roads may be a little slippery, especially if they weren't untreated. Here's a look at our current temperatures. We've actually risen 1 degree, 26 now in Madison, 28 in Janesville, 23 in the Dells. Definitely feels a little warmer outside this morning. Temperatures will actually climb above the freezing point today. That's the first time in a couple of days at least. We have a high of 34 degrees right around 3 p.m. this afternoon. Winds from the southeast should stay light. Here's a look at your first alert traffic maps this morning. So far, things have been pretty quiet, and it looks like that trend continues. Maybe a few brake lights showing up inbound on 151. Otherwise, the Beltline and all major routes into Madison looking pretty good right now. No accidents report around the area, so you still are traveling at posted speeds going into Madison. Might want to plan a little extra time, though. Could be a little slippery. You never know.
Well, and with all of that hoopla on Verona Road yesterday for like 10 hours, it was shut down. We'll talk about that in a moment, but holy smokes.
Yeah, and that had nothing to do with weather.
No, right. So throwing the snow in, it can always be a little dicey.
Yep.
Thanks, Hattie.
You're welcome.
We start this morning with a missing teenage girl who walked away from a gas station south of Fond du Lac overnight. Police are looking for 15-year-old Kristen Lyons-Cloud after she disappeared from a gas station in Lomira that her family had stopped at around midnight. Investigators say her footprints indicate she was picked up by a passing driver along I-41. Kristen was wearing a long-sleeved white fleece shirt with snowflakes on it and gray sweatpants when she was last seen. Anyone with information should contact the Dodge County Sheriff's Office at that number on your screen. That's 920-386-3726.
It is 25 degrees out right now, relatively warm this morning compared to temperatures in the teens and single-digit wind chills that we had earlier this week. But the reality is any winter weather is tough for someone without a home.
Yeah, hundreds of people are homeless here in Dane County. Christina Laurie is live outside the Beacon Day Shelter on East Wash this morning with more on what they're doing to keep people safe over the next few months. Good morning, Christina.
Good morning, Leah and Danica. Many people in the homeless community rely on the Beacon for a variety of services throughout the year, but those service needs increase as the wet temperatures drop here in Madison. Volunteers now say they could use even more help. Leaders at the Beacon say they serve an average of 225 people each day, but when the weather gets colder, that number goes up. This will be the second winter the Beacon is open and is offering a place to stay. Last winter, a count of the homeless population here in Dane County found more than 80 people sleeping outside on the street on any given night. That's nearly 20% of the local homeless community. With many people not having a permanent home, they say it's important to give homeless men and women as much gear as possible to stay warm.
One of the things we try to do is get our hands on coats and scarves and gloves and boots. So throughout the winter, we'll be handing those out so that we can arm our guests with as much protection as we can give them.
Bonder says one issue that the Beacon runs into this time of year is the lack of available storage space. He says because of this, they have to give out their donated supplies almost as quickly as they come in. Because of that, they're facing a shortage. They need hats, gloves, scarves, as you heard. So if you have any of those and would like to donate, you can head to our website, channel3000.com, to find out how.
A great way to give back this holiday season. All right, Christina Laurie reporting live for us. Thank you, Christina.
New this morning, the mother of a man fatally shot by a Walworth County deputy is suing that department, accusing his colleagues of destroying squad car camera footage. The Janesville Gazette reports Dorothea Locke filed that lawsuit on Sunday. Her son, Christopher Davis, was shot and killed in a restaurant parking lot back in 2016 while he was sitting in the passenger seat of a car. Deputy Juan Ortiz was investigating an alleged drug deal and claimed his life was in danger when the driver tried to take off. Ortiz was cleared of any wrongdoing and is now a detective with Walworth County. Locke's lawsuit claims officers mishandled that drug bust, showed deliberate indifference and negligence, and destroyed dashcam video evidence. Madison Police Chief Mike Koval says the public's harsh criticism of police is affecting his ability to hire and retain officers. In his latest blog post, Chief Koval says people are scapegoating police for complex societal issues, particularly when it comes to racism. He says that has hindered his ability to recruit quality candidates and led to a high number of early departures and resignations recently. That puts more of a burden on officers still working for MPD. In exit interviews, Koval says unrelenting toxicity and incessant criticism are common denominators. He wrote that he recently said a silent prayer for his sons, relieved they did not pursue a career in law enforcement.
This open field near the intersection of Highway 15 and US 45 in Outagamie County is one of 8 possible locations to host a new juvenile detention center. Those options are part of a solution to the Lincoln Hills facility that's going to be closing by 2021. The new facility in Hortonia would be one of 5 in the state, each hosting up to 40 beds with a focus on rehabilitation. While residents there have concerns about a youth prison in their area, local leadership is mostly concerned about the traffic congestion it might cause. That proposed site is on the main road that New London residents take to and from the Appleton area.
For anyone living or working on Madison's north side, we want to let you know about another shots fired incident overnight near Warner Park. This time, a house on Troy Drive was hit by a bullet. There was someone home when this happened around 10 p.m. yesterday, but no one was hurt. If you do know anything about this situation, though, you're asked to call Madison Police.
There is another community meeting in Baraboo tonight to talk about the photo of a group of high schoolers appearing to do a Nazi salute. It's part of a series of these types of meetings to brainstorm what that community wants to accomplish, including using that viral photo as a teaching moment. Superintendent Lori Miller said in a letter to parents last week that the district isn't in a position to punish those students because they're protected by the First Amendment. Tonight's community meeting is at 6 at the City Administration Building. School board members will also be there as part of that conversation.
The city continues to test wells near Easttown Mall and Memorial High School this morning to make sure contamination does not reach a level where it could hurt people using and drinking it. Tests last year found those wells contain small amounts of PFAs. Those are chemicals used in things like firefighting foams. Specifically in Madison, PFAs have been used near Truax Field in the Dane County Airport for about 40 years now. Right now, though, the levels are not considered to be dangerous. But the water utility continues to test both of those wells, and Mayor Paul Soglin is asking the Air National Guard to do more groundwater testing at Truax Field. Next year's city budget also includes funding to study fish in Lake Monona.
Head out for your morning commute. You're taking a live look down Verona Road. It is back open in both directions this morning after being closed for nearly 10 hours yesterday. Quite the mess there. The DOT says a contractor hit a power pole around noon, causing that shutdown. It reopened in both directions around 9:30 last night. All right, 6:08 your time now. Investigators now think they know where the E. coli outbreak related to romaine lettuce started across the country, but there is still a warning before you get a salad for lunch today. Dr. Mandira Mehra with SSM Health is with us this morning to talk about what you need to know to protect yourself.
And if you think this morning's commute is a little bit messy, just wait until the weekend. Hattie is talking about a chance for freezing rain, some sleet, maybe some snow, a little bit of everything in her forecast. That first alert forecast is coming up next on News 3 this morning.
Good morning from the patio. About 0.8 of an inch of snow here on the patio. Officially at the airport, 1 inch of snow though by midnight last night. So some light snow accumulation, but already the snow has come to an end for most of us this morning. So a little bit of cleanup begins. Here's a look at the radar map, and you can see that snow is left just in our far northeastern corner of the viewing area. The rest of the region looking dry this morning. And looking off to the west, there's a little bit of precipitation developing across parts of Nebraska this morning. There's a possibility that may clip the far southern part of the state overnight, but it's a small chance right now. Here's a look, though, at satellite and radar trends. While there are some holes in the cloud cover early this morning across southern Wisconsin, there's a pretty thick deck of clouds left across Iowa, and that's moving in this direction. So any amount of sunshine is going to be pretty short-lived today. Here's a look, though, at the alert days that I've added to the forecast for Saturday and Sunday. I'm watching a developing storm for the upcoming weekend. The storm is going to bring some warm air with it, so it'll be warm enough for rain here in southern Wisconsin. The problem is, though, that the pavement and the ground is very cold after our cold month, and so any of that rain has the potential to freeze on contact with cold surfaces. That would mean pavement, sidewalks, tree branches, and the like. So be careful if you're traveling early Saturday morning. There is again a possibility for some mix early on Sunday. Here's a look at GFS Future Track starting at about 10 or 11 o'clock on Friday. Dry for southern Wisconsin, but the rain moves in overnight. Keep in mind, there is the possibility for some freezing rain before it really gets warm enough to change to all rain for southern Wisconsin. Then there is the cooling trend that will take place as this storm system begins to track to our east, and we'll see once again a change over to some mix late Saturday into early Sunday. It may come to an end as all snow here across southern Wisconsin, but most of the precipitation from this storm is going to fall in the form of rain. Here's a look at liquid potential from this storm, and it's running around 1 inch across southern Wisconsin, so a fair amount of moisture headed our way. Transfer that into snow, and it doesn't look very good if you're looking for a big snowstorm here in southern Wisconsin. Most of our precipitation, again, will be in the form of rain. Temperatures this morning are in the 20s across the area, so it's definitely not as cold as it was yesterday. There's a little bit of a southeasterly wind this morning. Wind chills, though, are still hovering in the low 20s, so not a big factor this morning. Take a look at your Future Track forecast model, and it tries to break the clouds up a little bit, but really not having much luck today. So mostly cloudy skies. At least we're making it above freezing today with highs in the middle 30s. Here's a look at your extended forecast. If you have travel plans for the weekend, pay close attention to the forecast. We may have to fine-tune some things as we go over the next 48 hours, but looks like it will impact southern Wisconsin. Turning colder then next week with highs back in the 20s. Now let's get a look at your first alert traffic maps this morning. Jason Stone has all the details. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. No major incidents on the Beltline as motorists are driving at the posted speed limit. The Verona Road interchange is open and is seeing some heavier volume. Drivers will have some delay on the Verona Road intersection at Highway PD. Otherwise, it's mostly clear on all major routes heading into Madison. Traffic flow is steady throughout downtown and around the Capitol Square. Please use extra time to travel as some roads are still slippery and still have snow on them. With your first alert traffic, I'm Jason Stone.
All right, thank you, Jason. Thank you, Hattie. The FDA says do not eat romaine lettuce and if you don't know where it's from, because it could be coming from counties in California tied to an E. coli outbreak.
Yeah, a lot of the grocery stores in our area have been pulling romaine from the shelves due to that outbreak. Dr. Mindy Romero joins us now from SSM Health to talk about really why this seems to keep happening. Good morning, first and foremost. But I mean, should we ever be comfortable buying romaine again? It just feels like every few weeks we're talking about an E. coli outbreak here.
You're exactly right. It feels like every couple months, every season, we keep having this alert and we say, hey, viewers out there, be careful where you're getting your I almost said E. coli, but be careful where you're getting your romaine lettuce. And so some of this has to do with the laws. It always comes back to the laws. And some of this has to do with just where romaine lettuce is grown and how close it is grown to livestock. So if we take a step back, what is E. coli? E. coli is basically a bacteria. It lives in our intestines, in our gut. It also lives in the guts of animals. Now, this should not be harmful at baseline, but there are certain strains that are very harmful. These certain strains can make you very, very ill. We often know the symptoms to be nausea, vomiting, fatigue, dehydration, abdominal pain, but it can lead to even worse complications, including kidney failure. And so with this most recent outbreak, 40, 50 people have been reported to have them in 12 states, but over 16, 17 people hospitalized, one person with kidney failure. The problem here is when we have an outbreak, we pretty much make this blanket statement and we throw away all the romaine lettuce. So all the restaurants, the shelves, the grocery store, just to, of course, be safe. The problem is if we knew how to trace this back, we could use that technology to say, well, if it was only from this state, then just throw that romaine lettuce away. So it's taken over a week to really locate that this most recent outbreak was from California and only from possibly 6 counties. So again, we're working on the technology to say, how could we, easily scan with our smartphone and say, okay, this is where your romaine lettuce is from, it's safe. So I think until we have better regulatory laws, until we have better ways to trace it, be safe, throw it out. The CDC is now saying, well, if it wasn't from those 6 counties in California, you should be okay. But if you have romaine lettuce at home and it's not marked, the safer thing to do is just to toss it.
We're also talking this morning about this Chinese scientist who says he's created the first gene-edited babies in the world. Actually, there's some breaking news overnight that China is halting his studies, but there are a host of concerns with this sort of work.
Of course. So, just to say the medical and the scientific community at large is disgusted, outraged. The moral complications and moral, implications of this are huge. The scientific community in the world had come to a consensus that basically we will not be doing this gene editing modification on embryo and implanting them and really creating these quote-unquote designer babies. So suddenly you have the scientist that's gone rogue, for lack of a better word, who has made claims on YouTube that he has successfully implanted and birthed 2 live twin babies. And he has removed a very specific gene, a gene that makes us susceptible to HIV. And he makes the argument that, he's on the right side of potentially saving lives in the future of children and that kind of thing. The problem here is it was done so irresponsibly. So again, so much more testing has to be done, and we have to do this responsibly, because when you affect a child, if I was affected with something, that now changes my offspring's genetic code. In other words, changing the human species. And so this is something that you almost think about out of a sci-fi movie or out of an X-Men movie. You say, wow, we're genetically modifying things. And so not only has he broken that international code, but really the moral implications here are astounding. Very few people, if anyone, is in support of this in the way that he's gone about it.
Very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us this morning, Dr. Mara.
6:19 right now, and state education leaders want to make sure race is not an issue when it comes to kids with special needs getting the best programming possible in school. We're previewing that meeting on the issue coming up after the break.
And you might pass a snowplow out and about this morning. They are still working hard to keep your commute clear. Hattie's working hard to keep us updated on the chance for more this weekend. She's in next when News 3 This Morning continues.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Hattie McLean. The snow is already coming to an end across southern Wisconsin, but it was enough to coat the roads for the area, about an inch of accumulation. Here's a look at weather track, a few holes in the cloud cover, but our hope for any significant sunshine is not very good today. Clouds moving in from the west already. Temperatures are in the mid to upper 20s this morning, so it's definitely not as cold as it was yesterday. As you head to the bus stop, you might want to grab those snow boots and maybe even the snow pants. The playground be a little white today. Temperatures are going to climb above freezing, so it's likely going to be messy on the way home from school. Have a wonderful day.
All right, thank you, Hattie. The Department of Public Instruction is holding a public hearing today to make sure race doesn't affect the kind of programming kids with special needs can get in school. They're looking at how that factor plays into identifying kids with special needs and getting them into the right kinds of classes. After that public discussion, DPI plans to enact emergency and permanent rules that establish standards and criteria related to race and special education. That meeting is today from 2:30 until 4:30 at the department headquarters downtown on South Webster Street.
Only small pieces of history related to early African-American settlers here in the Midwest have actually been preserved, but a lifelong Madison resident is sharing some of those stories tonight. Muriel Sims wrote a book called Settlin', focused on 25 African-Americans whose families came to the Madison area in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. That book describes some of their struggles to find work, housing, and acceptance, and how they found support in places like churches, businesses, and social clubs. Sims will be discussing her book tonight at the Wisconsin Historical Museum on the Capitol Square.
There is something about a blanket that brings comfort and security. Take Linus from Peanuts, for example, and it's no different for our furry friends. You might have seen Jeff Hopwood at places like the Shoebox, Metcalf's West, or at 10 Pin Alley, selling handmade blankets for your best friend. Years ago, he wanted to find a way to help homeless animals in our area, so he came up with this side business of sorts called Blankets by Jeff.
It started as a fundraiser to help raise money for the animals. Over the years, it just kind of grew.
Coming up tonight in a special Do Something Good story, Jeff shares some very special stories that even some of his most loyal customers don't know about. That's tonight on News 3 at 10. You know, if it's a Charlotte DeLeste story, it's going to help restore your faith in humanity.
Yeah, definitely, and just give you the warm and fuzzies a little bit. No pun intended with the blankets, of course.
Looking forward to that. All right, 6:25 your time now. Area shelters are gearing up to help people without a home this winter. Christina Laurie is live this morning talking about why organizations are expecting an increase in the number of people they're going to serve.
And city leaders want to change the scene at the top of State Street, cutting down on things like loitering and police calls there with a plan that does not involve putting more officers on patrol. More on that when News 3 This Morning returns. Paul Ryan is gradually saying goodbye. We'll tell you what honor the House Speaker received for his decades of service in Congress.
And homeless for the holidays. About 600 people sleep on the streets every night here in Dane County. And in Madison, there are several local resources ready to help, but they rely on you as well. I'll explain just ahead.
This is News 3 This Morning.
Good morning and welcome to the final half hour of News 3 This Morning. It is almost 6:30 now on this Thursday, November 29th. It's 26 degrees. We're actually going up in the right direction this morning because remember this time yesterday we were actually going down in temperature.
That's about where the good news ends, though.
It's true.
We are looking for the chance for some freezing rain, possibly tonight and into the weekend, right, Hads?
Yeah, we have a couple of storm systems to watch, especially for the upcoming weekend. But what you need to know right now is that there's about an inch of fresh snow on the ground from the snow that fell overnight. Here's a live look from the WISC-TV Skycam on the west side of Madison. That's Raymond Road, looking just wet. Most roads were plowed when I came into work, but still had a little bit of snow left on them. So you might want to give yourself just a little extra time to clean off the car and get to work this morning. Here's a look at the radar map. The snow is quickly coming to an end for southern Wisconsin. The rest of the day will be dry, but we're going to keep the clouds in place. Mostly cloudy skies today. Temperatures climbing actually into the 30s, though. It'll be a little warmer than it was yesterday. We should hit a high of 34 degrees right around 3 p.m. So climbing above the freezing point. First day in several. Here's a look at your traffic maps this morning. Not seeing any major delays just yet, which is good news. A few brake lights are starting to pop up on the belt line right around Stoughton Road. That's pretty typical for this time of the morning. But looking around southern Wisconsin, not seeing any other major delays on those major roads headed into the city. And that's your first alert traffic.
All right, thank you so much, Hattie. The people who run homeless shelters in our area are preparing to offer more services in the coming months.
Yeah, hundreds of people living in Dane County don't actually have a place to call home, which means no permanent place to stay warm in the winter. Christina Laurie is live outside the Beacon on East Washington Avenue. That day shelter is heading into its second winter of helping the homeless. Hi, Christina.
Good morning, Danica and Leah. It's cold outside this morning, understandable for winter, but imagine not having a place to warm up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's unfortunately a reality for hundreds of people here in Dane County. That's why leaders at the Beacon Homeless Shelter say that they are asking for your help. Last winter's point-in-time count found a nearly 5% increase in Dane County's homeless population over the previous winter, with more than 600 people either staying in shelters or sleeping outside. That's a major concern for leaders at the Beacon because things like frostbite and hypothermia can quickly take the lives of people who can't find shelter for the night.
You're out there on your own. Some of these folks are in tents. They're under bridges. They're in alleyways, they're up on State Street, so that's some dangerous weather.
The Beacon says they rely on donations of hats, boots, gloves, and coats to keep the homeless population warm, and they are always in need of help, both in physical donations and hands-on help. For more information on how you can help support the homeless population here in Madison and Dane County, head to our website, channel3000.com.
A persistent problem, if not
Always.
even a growing one here in Madison. So Christina Laurie reporting live from outside the Beacon this morning. Thank you, Christina.
The city of Madison is trying to attract new businesses and programs interested in setting up shop at the top of State Street. Police often respond to that area for loitering, drug issues, and fights, and businesses there have complained about homeless people who congregate in the area. There have been efforts to increase police enforcement and bring events to that space, but the city says those take up too many resources. To address some of those safety issues, the city is now hoping a nonprofit or a business owner will become a permanent staple at the top of State. The Downtown Coordinating Committee will talk about accepting proposals at its meeting tonight.
House Speaker and Janesville native Paul Ryan is preparing his farewell speech, which he's set to deliver next week on the House floor. Before that, he'll be there today, thanking his 1st District supporters and staff. Ryan is retiring in January after more than 20 years on Capitol Hill. Yesterday, he received the Defense Department's Distinguished Public Service Award. That's the highest award that department can give. Ryan will also be interviewed today by the Washington Post about his time as House Speaker, his time in Congress, and what's next. You can watch that live on WashingtonPost.com.
There is an opportunity for you to learn what to do in an active shooter situation. The Portage Police Department and Columbia County Emergency Management are hosting a training tonight. One of the officials leading that program told the Portage Daily Register the goal is to make these conversations as common as fire drills. Data shows there have been more than 300 mass shootings in the country so far this year. That's where 4 or more people were shot in the same general time and space. Tonight's training is at the Portage High School Auditorium. It runs from 6 until 8.
There's an event happening tonight on the 30th annual World AIDS Day to highlight just how big of a problem the disease really is. For the 15th year in a row, UW Health is sponsoring a conversation about AIDS and who it disproportionately affects. Numbers show that in 2017, of the 259 people newly diagnosed with HIV in Wisconsin, more than 60% were minorities. An expert on HIV and health disparities in the Black community will talk about some of those issues tonight, starting at 5:30 over at Goodman Community Center.
Some big changes are coming to a busy stretch of road just north of Madison, and the DOT wants to know what you think about them. Work to expand Highway 19 between River Road and the interstate east of Waunakee is expected to start in just over a year. Those plans call for the highway to expand to 4 lanes in that stretch, as well as the addition of a roundabout. More than 17,000 cars travel across that stretch of road every day. An open house on the project is scheduled for 5:30 tonight at the DeForest Village Hall.
All right, beers like PBR and Old Style will not disappear from liquor store shelves or dive bars for now. We will tell you about the settlement Pabst reached with a big macro brewer to keep their brand alive.
And if you're an essential oils diehard, this next story might be for you. Some first responders here in Wisconsin are swapping out pain meds for something a little more homeopathic. That story's next on News 3 this morning.
Welcome back. It is 6:39, and as always, we ask you to share your morning with us. And Renee shared this beautiful shot from Juneau County. Just a quintessential, wonderful sunrise with lots of color out there.
If you have to wake up this early, you get to wake up to that?
There you go.
Not so bad. Thanks for sharing, Renee. What does your morning look like? Take a picture, post it on our Facebook page or on Twitter, and use the hashtag MyNews3Morning. Danica and I share our favorites right here on the program. A Wisconsin ambulance service is using essential oils to cut down on pain medications. Tri-State Ambulance is putting 6 different types of oils in its La Crosse area ambulances to help treat pain, nausea, and anxiety. The company's medical director says paramedics often give small doses of fentanyl or other opioids to patients who end up not needing a pain medication prescription. He says the oils will only be used in cases where patients have minor pain or other complaints. Paramedics will also have access to liquid Tylenol as another alternative to opioids.
There's a special recruitment event tonight for women interested in becoming a firefighter or a paramedic. Madison College and the Madison Fire Department are hosting a mentorship session to help women prepare for the interview and physical fitness portions required to get those careers. You can find information on the Madison College EMS and Fire Facebook page. According to the National Fire and Protection Association, only 7% of firefighters in the U.S. are women.
All right, Madison has all 32 snowplows out overnight to keep your morning commute clear, but there is a chance for more snow, maybe even some freezing drizzle later tonight. Hattie's in next with the details.
But first, if you have a kiddo turning 3 soon, please let us know. Send in a picture so we can share it on TV. And thank you for watching News 3 this morning.
Look who's
Welcome back. If you're a fan of those bodybuilder calendars, there's a group of women in Appleton who are showing off their fitness with a special spread of their own.
We love this story, but these guns might not be quite what you expect.
Working.
I don't feel like I'm 70 something. I feel really like I'm still 50.
Miss September.
I love that. Women at this retirement community are proudly showing off their bodies in a calendar that's raising money for a local domestic abuse survivor program. They have worked hard for their physiques, working out at least 5 times a week. And it's about more than just getting that calendar bod.
Not only do we need muscles, but we need those connective tissues, and all of the moving helps everything to work properly and stave off the aging part.
Yeah, Miss November knows what she's talking about. These women hope that mentality and their calendar pictures will inspire others their age to get active.
Get it, ladies.
Where do I sign up to get one of these?
I know. That is really cool. And good on them for trying to raise some money for a good cause, too. That is, I mean, it's a win-win, right?
And you know what? It's something all of us can learn from. Every woman, positive body image. Love that story.
Yeah, and keep active, keep working out.
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
Is something Hattie McLean knows a lot about. Not the old lady part, Hads. You were looking great, but Hattie does her boot camp every Saturday. That's what I'm talking about. So keep it up.
Oh, thank you for clarifying, Danica. Yeah, and I've been watching that Saturday morning forecast. Might be a little tricky to get to boot camp this weekend. Let's talk about what's happening this morning, though. We have dry conditions across southern Wisconsin. The snow is quickly coming to an end for areas north and east of Madison. Not a whole lot off to the west across Minnesota and Iowa. Just a lot of cloud cover this morning. There is the potential for a little bit of freezing rain tonight. Take a look at the GFS ice potential. There could be some light freezing drizzle occurring across far southern Wisconsin tonight into Friday, so be aware of that. Here's a look at GFS future track starting at 8 p.m. tonight. A little bit of precipitation moving in. Again, southerly winds keeping temperatures relatively mild aloft, so that may cause that problem with the mixy precipitation. It's a pretty short-lived event, though. Most of the day on Friday will be dry. Look for very cloudy skies, but I'm watching a weekend storm that will start to move in late Friday into Saturday. This one bringing some warm air with it, so rain is expected across southern Wisconsin to begin overnight Friday into early Saturday. Keep in mind the pavement temperatures and the ground temps are very cold. We've been below normal so far this month in November, so any rain could have potential to freeze on contact. Temperatures will climb well above freezing, though, so a change over to all rain through the day on Saturday. But then Saturday night into Sunday, that cold air starts to wrap in around behind this system, and we see a change back to mix, possibly even a little bit of snow. So for all of these precipitation types, I've added alert days to the forecast for Saturday and Sunday. Keep in mind, travel Saturday morning might be the trickiest with that freezing rain potential. There also is the potential, though, for some mix early on Sunday. Here's a look at precipitation potential. This is liquid equivalent. Most of our precipitation will be in the form of rain here in southern Wisconsin, and we're pushing 3/4 to about an inch of liquid equivalent. Not a lot of that occurring as snow for us, at least, less than an inch forecast for southern Wisconsin. There are some light snow potential accumulations, though, for the central part of the state. Here's a live look from the WISC-TV Skycam. You can see the rooftops coated in a fresh coating of light snow. The road looking just wet. 26 here in Madison this morning. Temperatures are going to climb into the 30s today. The first day above freezing in quite some time. 34 in Middleton, 33 in Stoughton today. To the west, we're looking at cloudy skies. Fenimore topping at 34. Prairie du Chien climbing to a high of 35. And 33 in Mauston, 32 in Adams today. Here's a look at your forecast then for the extended time frame. Temperatures will warm up a little bit for Friday and Saturday, hitting highs in the upper 30s. But again, keep in mind that mixed potential both Saturday and Sunday morning. We are going to cool it down after that with some chances for light snow early next week. Temperatures, though, back to hitting highs in the 20s. Take a look at these two, though. They're all snuggled up in their blankets. Steve and Harlow in Middleton.
Hattie and I were trying to guess which one was Steve and which one was Harlow yesterday.
I thought maybe Steve was the orange-colored one.
I'm sensing a theme with all of these pets. It's all about cuddling in these cold months, huh?
Why not?
I don't blame them. Love it. Thanks, Hattie.
You're welcome.
The Morning Sprint is coming up next right here on News 3 This Morning. 6:51 time now for the morning sprint. Hattie is not expecting any more snow today, not substantially, but there is a chance for slightly more overnight. She'll tell us what to expect.
And Christina Laurie is live at the Beacon Shelter with how they're helping the homeless in dangerously cold temperatures. But we start in Madison, where Police Chief Mike Koval says the public's harsh criticism of police is affecting his ability to hire and retain officers. In his latest blog post, Chief Koval says people are scapegoating police for complex societal issues, particularly when it comes to racism. He says that's hindered his ability to recruit quality candidates and adds to a high number of early departures and resignations.
Authorities are worried about the safety of a missing 15-year-old who was last seen in Dodge County. Kristen Lyons-Cloud and her family stopped at a gas station in Lomira between 11 o'clock yesterday night and midnight today. Kristen ran away and was last seen walking along Interstate 41. First responders tried to follow footprints in the snow, but it appears she was picked up by a driver. Anyone who knows where Kristen could be should call the Dodge County Sheriff's Office on the number on your screen.
This open field near the intersection of Highway 15 and US 45 in Outagamie County is one of 8 possible locations to host a new juvenile detention center. Those options are part of the solution to the Lincoln Hills facility that's closing by 2021. This new facility in Hortonia would be one of 5 in the state, each hosting up to 40 beds and designed to focus on rehabilitation.
The city is looking for a new solution to loitering, drug issues, and fights that continue to happen at the top of State Street. A committee will talk tonight about making a nonprofit or a business a permanent tenant in the area where a lot of homeless individuals tend to congregate. The city has tried increasing police enforcement and bringing events to that space, but says that uses up too many resources.
I'm Christina Laurie, live outside the Beacon homeless shelter this morning, where they're gearing up for their second long cold winter, and they're asking for your help to prepare. The Homeless Services Consortium counted more than 600 people experiencing homelessness during their point-in-time count last winter. That's 5% more than the previous year. Of those, around 80 people were found sleeping outside instead of in a shelter on any given night. Volunteers and leaders from the Beacon homeless shelter in Madison say cold weather can be dangerous, even deadly. The Beacon says they rely on donations of hats, gloves, coats, and boots to give homeless people the warmth they need to survive this winter.
And definitely looking more like winter outside this morning with about an inch of snow on the ground. It fell overnight. Now that snow is exiting to the north and east. A lot of clouds, though, building back into the area. So expect mostly cloudy skies through the day today. Temperatures, though, will be a little bit warmer. We're climbing actually above the freezing point this afternoon. Should hit a high of 34 degrees right around 3 p.m.
Thank you, Hattie. President Trump is on Twitter this morning as he gets ready to head to Argentina for the G20 summit. He is talking about everything from General Motors to the Russian investigation, ahead of a packed schedule that includes meetings with the presidents of Argentina, China, and more. Then on Saturday, the president has a meeting scheduled with Russian President Vladimir Putin. They are expected to discuss ways to normalize relations between the U.S. and Russia.
The president's schedule does not include a meeting with the Saudi crown prince. The White House continues to say it's unclear whether he is responsible for the murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. That's despite the CIA concluding the prince did in fact order the killing at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. The U.S. Senate's moving ahead with a resolution that could pull the U.S. out of Saudi Arabia's war in Yemen, which the UN calls the world's most humanitarian crisis.
Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi is poised once again to become the Speaker of the House. Democrats nominated their longtime leader during a closed-door meeting yesterday, 203 to 32. But the bigger challenge will come in January when Pelosi will face a full House vote to decide who gets the Speaker's gavel.
House Speaker and Janesville native Paul Ryan is preparing his farewell speech this morning, which he's set to deliver next week. Ryan's retiring, you may remember, in January after more than 20 years on Capitol Hill. Yesterday, he received the Defense Department's Distinguished Public Service Award, the highest award that department can give. Ryan will also be interviewed by the Washington Post later today. That will stream live on the paper's website.
Governor-elect Tony Evers is touring the state this week to pitch a plan for Medicaid expansion under his first budget. He said he plans to increase Badger Care Plus coverage for low-income families under President Obama's health care law. Wisconsin was one of 17 states that hasn't taken federal funding under that law to expand Medicaid.
2 major brewers have reached a settlement this morning and will no longer battle it out in a Milwaukee courtroom. Pabst Brewing claimed Miller Coors was trying to stop a years-long agreement it made to brew beer for Pabst, with the goal of putting Pabst out of business. Just yesterday, the 2 companies came to an agreement, though the details aren't public yet.
The Department of Public Instruction is holding a public hearing today to make sure race doesn't affect the kind of programming kids with special needs can get in school. They're looking at how that factor plays into identifying kids with special needs and getting them into the right kinds of classes. After the public discussion, DPI plans to enact emergency and permanent rules that establish standards and criteria related to race and special education.
All right, 6:56 right now. Let's turn it over this morning to Jason Stone with a look at your first alert traffic in these snowy roads. Hi, Jason.
Hello. Drivers on the Beltline are heading at the posted speed limit in both directions. Expect heavier volume around the interchanges. Motorists on John Nolan are moving well after leaving the congestion found at the Rimrock intersection, and continue to give yourself extra time for your morning commute and give other drivers needed space as some roads are slippery and still have snow on them. With your first alert traffic, I'm Jason Stone.
Great reminder. Thank you, Jason.
And it's a cloudy start. The snow has come to an end for southern Wisconsin. Here's a look at your forecast today. Temperatures are starting in the mid-20s. Not bad. We'll climb to high 34 this afternoon. Maybe a few holes in the cloud cover this morning, but mostly cloudy skies through the afternoon. Keep in mind, alert days have been added to the forecast for Saturday and Sunday. That weekend storm will bring a messy mix of precipitation to southern Wisconsin.
Ooh, gotta keep an eye on the roads for that slush and that freezing rain. That's pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
Thank you, Hattie.
Any of that, all of the above bad stuff. You can follow all of the weather for yourself. Make sure you keep up to date on the radar with the Channel 3000 First Alert Weather and Traffic app.